Okay.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining SI UK University Fair Online today. I am Aki, Senior Consultant from SI UK London, and here with Guy Doughty, who is Director of UK Operations. Hi Guy.
Hi, Aki. Nice to be here. Today, I'm going to update you all on how the COVID-19 outbreak is impacting UK higher education for both existing and prospective students like many of you. And I'm going to try and answer the all-important what's happening in September question.
Right, thank you guys. Guy, 2020 have been building up to be a huge success for the UK. So we've got so many existing and new students with questions. Of course, there is a lot of uncertainty about what's happening for the autumn 2020 intake, from visas, entry requirement, to accommodation, facility, teaching, and everything in between. There are so many questions. And the trouble is, the answer seems to be changing. So, what do we know, and where should we go to get the best answers? Guy, first of all, would you like to give us a brief picture of update of the impacts of COVID-19 in the UK and subsequent changes in the UK higher education?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks very much, Aki. It is a changing situation. You're absolutely right. Now, the current situation, obviously, is that the UK is easing its way out of lockdown. Schools, colleges, universities, everything had been shut, but is now gradually beginning to come back to a new normality, if you like. But of course, the lack of information over the last few weeks has been quite difficult for students, for both existing students and prospective students. And as you say, we've had a really, really good year with lots of students joining us. And so they've all got questions. What I can say from a sort of global perspective, if you like, or certainly from a UK-wide perspective, is that many of the universities have now been confirming their autumn 2020 intake. I think most of them have been saying to us now, and particularly over the last couple of weeks, yes, we'll be starting in autumn 2020, either in September or in October. But we also need to bear in mind that for many of them at the moment, it doesn't quite look like a normal intake. There's a lot of emphasis on some of the teaching will be in online, and some of it will be face-to-face. It's often called a hybrid model or a blended model. Universities are likely to be using both online education and some face-to-face interaction where they can do that safely. I think the other thing we can say for definite is there's going to be an expansion of January starts as well. Quite a few universities have been announcing that they're going to be starting more courses than usual in January, so that gives them a bit of extra time to make sure that their campuses are in order and that they can do as much face-to-face as possible. I think what we need to bear in mind at the moment with the current situation is that the universities quite rightly are being very, very cautious. They have the safety and security of students at the top of their list of priorities. So they're being very cautious about how they reopen. But what you see at the moment is likely to be the most cautious. And it's likely over the next few weeks and couple of months to get easier as infection rates decline. There's been good news about that in the UK just this morning from the Office of National Statistics, that the infection rates still coming down. And as that happens, so universities will feel more confident to open more facilities and to have more online, more face-to-face class contact. So at the moment, I think we are easing out of lockdown. For the vast majority of institutions, there will be an autumn intake, but it's likely to have various differences from what we've been used to as a normal intake. And I think we'll probably come across those more when you ask specific questions.
Mhm. Okay, thank you so much, Guy. So some questions are overlapped to your current situation update, but I just wanted to move on to the first and most frequently asked questions from my students. So the first question is, of course, will there still be an autumn 2020 intake? You already covered this point, but would you give us a bit more
Yeah,
detail
sure.
about this intake?
Yeah, sure, sure. I went through it very quickly. Yes, there will be an autumn 2020 intake. As we talk today, Aki, there will be an autumn 2020 intake. Um, and most of the institutions have confirmed that, but not all of them yet, but most of them have been confirming that. There will be variations.
Mhm.
Wales and Scottish institutions are less definite at the moment. Students wouldn't necessarily know, but Wales and Scotland form part of the United Kingdom, but have their own um, governments, if you
Mhm.
like, and so there might be a difference between us and them. But at the moment, most of the English ones are announcing there will be an autumn 2020 intake.
Great. So most students are also concerned if the whole year program is going to be taught online. What would the teaching look like?
Yeah, yes, that is something that's really concerning, and I think Aki, all the research has shown and indeed our feedback has shown that students would much more like there to be traditional face-to-face teaching than an online provision, and particularly at postgraduate level, that is seen as very important.
Yes.
Um, I think for most of the universities, what we're seeing is that there will be a mixture actually of
Mhm.
some online, big lectures will probably be in an online format, whereas small groups are likely to be face to face. And of course, in the British university context,
Mhm.
small group work is really, really important. And that is likely to still be face to face.
Great. So if the teaching is offered partly on campus basis, I would say the next question will be, what about campus facilities? Is this a safe or is it all open?
Well, now that's a very good question. And what I can say is I was in discussion with the Vice Chancellor of University of Surrey last week with our colleagues from the Times Higher Education on a webinar, and he was explaining um, all the things that they're doing in Surrey to ensure that they can open as many of their facilities as possible.
Mhm.
However, I, as we sit here today, I think that will be very varied. It will depend on the campuses and depend on how much they can open.
Yes.
I think that for September, there probably will be parts of the campus and perhaps parts of the social events at campus
Mhm.
that remain closed until the infection rate is really very, very low indeed when they can reopen.
Mhm.
To a certain extent, we've all got to keep our fingers crossed because the universities are very keen to open things up. Um, but it will be dependent on that infection rate. And the quicker that goes down, the quicker all campuses can reopen. I would imagine that by September, actually, they are able to open a lot more than they are planning to open at this moment.
Mhm. Yes, I think all universities are still waiting for the government guidelines and still many details are not confirmed and uncertain. So when we'll get the final decision or announcement from universities?
Oh my word, that's another good question, because I don't think there will be an announcement as such. I think the announcements will come from individual universities, and the government gives sort of overall guidance. But in the UK context, the individual universities have quite a lot of independence to do their own thing.
Mhm.
And so that's a really important question, because students need up-to-date, good advice as much as possible.
Mhm.
Now, for those students who are with SIUK, I would immediately say, look, just contact your consultant in SIUK. We're only too happy to respond and give you the up-to-date information as we know it. And we keep monitoring all the universities and all the information they put out. Otherwise, your best bet is to look at the individual university, um, the and to find out what they are saying. But it is on an individual basis. There probably won't be a general announcement about it. So what I would recommend is that you keep in close contact with us at SIUK or the individual universities to keep you completely updated on information.
Great, thank you, Guy. That is really helpful advice. Of course, prospective students who already applied and received an offers, or who are going to apply for universities, have questions about entry requirements and fees. And
Yes.
a question related to that area will be my second point. So first of all, the English language requirements are very confusing now because IELTS tests have been cancelled all around the world. What do students need to do to meet the English requirement? Do you have any advice?
Yes, I do have advice. I mean, firstly, you're absolutely right, of course, Aki. That is a very confusing area. IELTS, the tests and the IELTS testing centres were cancelled quite early on.
Yes.
Um, there's always a queue for them. So, the universities recognise that.
Mhm.
Many of them have set up slightly different systems. Either they're looking at um, allowing other exams as well as IELTS, whereas IELTS was the sort of most important one. Now they're looking at other ones, such as Duolingo, the TOEFL IBT test. There's a variety of different ones. Um, and universities themselves have the freedom as to what other qualifications they accept. So here, I'm sorry, I'm repeating what I said a few minutes ago, but there are differences. um, as a student, you should either contact the university who you've made an application to, or if you're with us at SIUK, contact your consultant and they will take you through the process, because universities are well aware of that. They're being flexible, and therefore there are other methods that students can show that they've satisfied an English requirement.
Great. That's very flexible and helpful, isn't it? So
Yeah, it is.
yeah, as well as English tests, many school and university are closed and canceling or postponing final exams. So that flexibility will be applied to this requirement as well. Do you have any advice?
Yes, it will. The advice I have is that, yes, the universities are being very flexible and sensitive. They're aware this is nobody's fault. This is a dreadfully difficult situation in which everyone finds themselves. So they're really flexible and helpful, and try to make sure that they can use other methods of assessing students' learnings.
Mm.
Um, as you know, the entry requirements is a really difficult area, because the universities do have to maintain their standards. It wouldn't be doing anyone a favour if they suddenly reduce their entry requirements.
Mm.
So that they do have to take notice of academic learning and find other ways of assessing it. And that's precisely what they're doing. They're aware that many universities, many schools and colleges are closed and that many exams aren't taking place. And with all of them, we are finding that the exam boards, the exam authorities are finding different ways of making sure that their students are given marks.
Yes.
So, for instance, although in the UK context, A-levels aren't taking place, the actual A-level exams, all the students are being given grades and the universities will be accepting those grades. So the best thing you can do, again, is rest assured that that situation will be taken into account. Your university will try not to penalise you at all. It'll try every method of trying to assess what level of learning you're at and whether you're actually suitable to go on to the course you've applied for, and either contact your university directly or, you've heard it before, contact SI UK consultants.
Great. Okay. So for most international students, pursuing higher education is always about the tuition fees.
Yes.
Investment. So if the teaching is offered either online or hybrid, do they get any discount or refund for this teaching method? Because it's not exactly the same as face-to-face teaching.
No, it's not.
Mhm.
And to be honest, all the surveys I see, and I look at a lot of them to try and keep right up to date with all the information, indicates that students see online as a different experience. Quite often, to be frank, it's not their first choice.
Mhm.
You know, that students, particularly international students who are, um, after all, spending a lot of money on this. It's a very big investment. We do recognize that. And it's not just about the sort of course material, but it's about the face-to-face contact. It's about the networking. It's about the whole experience that they just can't get from online.
Yes.
Now, and they therefore feel, and many might argue quite rightly, that there should be a different pricing point for online education.
Mhm.
I have to say that isn't universally accepted at the moment. And I think the best thing I can say there is that some education providers, not necessarily universities, but perhaps the pathway providers such as Kaplan and Navitas and Inter and things like that, offer discount systems, and that would probably take account of some of this. But it's something that's being worked on, and you know, I know we don't personalize these things, but it's something that's close to my heart. I have a daughter who's starting university in September, and the idea was that if it's online, it's at the same price as face to face. And I have to say, from my point of view, I wasn't happy about that. And I think there will be changes and developments on that front. As yet, I can't report that there is a discount, but I think that that's something that you do need to keep a very close eye on, because all our research indicates that international students feel very strongly that that should be the case.
I see. Okay, yeah, I can feel it. So if again the teaching is a mixture of online and face-to-face or the fully online, what impact does it have on visa application?
Now, another commonly asked good question. Now, from our understanding at this point, If it's fully online, that is that initially some universities had been suggesting, right, we will have a September intake, but it'll all be online and then you'll join physically in January.
Mhm.
That's what some had been saying. It's changed a lot now, and not so many are saying that. But in those circumstances, then you wouldn't be able to get a visa until the January, because you can't get a visa for a wholly online program.
Mhm.
However, if it's a mixture with some classes online and some face to face, then you can get a visa. So that's the basic division there. Now, that's as far as I can go on visas, because in the UK, we have very strict guidelines that you must be an accredited visa advisor to talk in detail about visas. So we have a colleague in SI UK who is an accredited visa advisor, who would be able to give you more help and support on those specifics. But I'm only allowed to tell you that the general rules, which are those.
I see. Okay, thank you so much, Guy. So at the moment, you everybody arrived in UK will need to be in quarantine for 14 days. Does this mean the student have to arrive here earlier than usual, earlier, say 2 weeks before the date they are supposed to enroll in this course?
Definitely safer. However, I have just been seeing that some universities take that into account and have said that they will provide online support for self-quarantining students. So my message at this point would be, don't worry about that from the point of view of your course deadline. It looks likely at the moment, and you can check with the individual institutions, but from what I've seen, it looks likely that they will take that into account. They will provide you with online work to do whilst you are in quarantine.
Great.
So but there's a different point to that, which is that the quarantine restrictions haven't come into force yet. They're due to come in on Monday, and
Mhm.
are proving very controversial. I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of easing of those quarantine restrictions before September. So keep up to date on that one, I would say.
Okay, so this will be subjected to change anytime between now.
I think so.
Yes, yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so the last question is, guys, so PSW system that allows the students to work after the graduation. So will the PSW system be in place as promised for those starting in autumn 2020 and graduating in summer 2021? Because it's been suspended for a while and then this coronavirus outbreak happened.
I
So
know, I know. No, again, these are all really sensible questions. But again, the post-study work visa was so important, in meaning that it had been a very um, busy year for us this year so far. That really had an impact on the number of students wanting to study in the UK, because it's such a great opportunity um, to gain valuable experience after you've graduated. The post-study work visa was something that we'd all been calling for a number of years, and it's great. And I'm very pleased to say that, yes, that still goes ahead from autumn 2020, students joining from autumn 2020, and all those graduating in the summer of 21, no matter when they started, they will still be eligible for the post-study work visa.
I see. So it's still been offered.
It's still being offered, it's being confirmed, and that's a great thing.
This is a hope in the dark.
Yeah.
Great. So I think the students still got loads of questions about visa because visa application is very individual and unique case.
Yeah.
So what do they need to do if they have any concerns, even the slightest concerns in their visa application or their eligibility or requirement? Do you have any?
Well, yes. I mean, my advice to them would be check out your individual institution if they can be of any help, or as I say, SIUK, and I don't mean to say it all the time, but has an accredited visa advisor, and it's precisely because they are complicated, they are individual, that contact them, and if you have any concerns, doubts, just need clarification, please contacted. Well, I mean, I work for SIUK, so I'm going to say the SIUK accredited visa officer, but an accredited visa officer to get that specific information. It's really important that you set your mind at rest on whatever your concerns or area of interest on that one. So just contact an accredited person, because otherwise it gets really complicated, to be honest. I'm changing all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's changing all the time, and then now more than usual. So,
Well, that's precisely why you know
mm,
people like that exist, because there's lots of help and advice to give.
yes. Okay, so Guy, thank you so much for your advice. We went through loads of points today. So would you like to give us the conclusion for the student to take it home?
Yes, certainly. I mean, I'm not going to. I've done enough repeating of myself today, but just to say, look, we do, and the universities do understand that there's such a lot of uncertainty and such a lot of rapid change at the moment. What you can really take away is that all the UK universities, all of them, are really committed to getting back up and running in a safe manner for students, and safety of students and students' health is a complete priority for everyone in this. But they're committed to getting back up and running as soon as possible. Our current information is that this is going to be in September. Possibly slightly delayed, but with some intakes in October, delaying 3 or 4 weeks to give chance for infection rates to go even further down. But they're all currently looking to get back up in September. But there will be changes, and I think there will be very positive changes between now and September, because I think the rate of infection is declining rapidly now. And so it's becoming more and more safe. The lockdown is being eased all around. And so I think that we will find that it's going to take place in September, and it will be more back to normal than it looks like right at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are all very positive things, but there is still a lot of uncertainty. There are still a lot of changes. And I think the key message is stay in contact. Stay in contact either with your university or if you're working with us, with your consultant with us, and we'll keep you up to date and informed of what's happening, what's likely to happen, and what you as a student need to do at this point. And then you can rest assured that everyone's interest is the same in trying to make this as positive an experience as it's possible for you, and to make sure that you don't lose any of the opportunities that you can gain from a UK undergraduate or postgraduate degree.
Great, thank you so much. So in the event, in today's fair, students has loads of other places to visit to get more information. So what do they need to do next after this presentation?
Well, now, depending on where you are in the fair, will depend on what you do. But as your fallback, go back to your floor plan, and if you want to visit a university, then click on the Meet University part of it. If you're going to go now and talk to a consultant, then click on the consultant button and that will take you to see a consultant. And if you've got any other queries, there's a help desk button there. Click on that and it will take you where you need to be. But as ever, your basic tool here is your floor plan. So as long as you've got your floor plan open on your web browser, you can't go too far wrong.
Okay, so thank you so much for listening, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day today.
Bye.
Bye-bye.